Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Super Real Human. Today is a very special episode because we are back with my good friend, Glenda Lane, who was one of the first, I want to say you were one of the first 5 guests on Super Real Human way back in the very beginning. So I'm really excited to sort of check back in with you. See, I mean, time flies. It's been 3 years, more than maybe.
Yeah, that's what I said to my husband. I said it's 3 or 4 years. I can't remember how long, but not that we haven't been in touch in that time, but like just being on your podcast. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I was like, yeah, like you said, one of the first ones.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on. So yeah, it's kind of fun
It
to
is. It's
full
a great
circle.
check-in. Yeah, it's a great check-in point. All right, so Glenda, it has been some time. What what are you actually, let's do this. Why don't we have you just share with people what do you do here in this world? What do you do?
What do I do? Oh my goodness. So, I mean, I call myself a million things. I'm an intuitive energy coach. I'm a soul guide. I'm a spiritual mentor. You name it. I'm going to like really sum it up and say that I help women remember and embody the truth of who they are without all their conditioning. So the way that I work with women is really take them through a process where we disentangle from all the conditioning that we took on as children and throughout our lifetimes. And as we disentangle from that, we start to remember who we really are and really start to step into that and claim that for ourselves. And I do the tools that I use. I use human design. I use gene keys for deconditioning, and I do a lot of I use a lot of energetics. I use a lot of emotional mastery and also nervous system regulation. So it's kind of using all of that to and one of my gifts is I can see through the BS, that we all tell ourselves, let's face it, we all have our moments of believing the BS, and I can see right through it, and so I lovingly can bring that to the forefront and sometimes kick you in the butt. So that's my but I'm like a champion for the essence of who you are. To me, that's the truth of who you are, and that has never gone away from day one. It's just it gets covered over and clouded when we start being who we think we need to be, who we should be, who we're told to be, who we've learned to be, instead of truly being ourselves. So, yes, that's what I do.
So I love the work that you do too, because I benefited greatly from your expertise years ago. And as I mentioned in like sort of the intro episode to the podcast, I think that's when I kind of got into a little bit of my story. Right before my mom passed, she pulled me aside in our kitchen and she told me, she was like, I see you and I see you're not happy and I see the path you're going down and it's not your path. You got to follow your happy. Mm-hmm. Right. And she was like, I see it because I lived that. And that was like, oh, and she was dying and we knew.
Yeah.
We didn't have long. And so of course in my head, I'm like, you're giving me the permission I needed as a people pleaser, right? And as your daughter, you're giving me the permission I have been looking for, and you're not going to be here.
Yeah.
I got to figure this out. And you and I had met. No, we hadn't met. Had we met? No, we hadn't met yet.
No, online. We met online, right? Being a part of the group. And then we met in person in LA.
Right. Yeah. So that was after, because I hadn't started my own company yet.
Right.
So that was before I started my own company. When I started my company, I joined the coaching group. That's when we met. But she had told me that, and I sort of carried that with me. And I literally struggled for years being like, God, I know what she meant.
Yeah.
Right. She knew that I was in a marriage that was not right. That was not fulfilling, healthy, all of the things. Mm-hmm. And that was like just rocked my world, but I had no idea what to do about it. And then I met you. Yeah. Our coach, Shiva, was like, you need to talk to Glenda. You guys need to work together. And I mean, she couldn't have been more right. Because you did.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. Like you saw it. I mean, you saw it right away. And like you said, like you lovingly call out people's bullshit, and you did, thank God. That was very good. I had, like 40 years of practice of the face, right? Like
Yeah,
creating that image that I wanted everybody else to see and pretending that, everything was great. Everything was what I wanted.
everything's good. I'm good. Right? Everything's fine. I'm good.
No, of course, I'm just cranking along. And it was mom's passing. And then those subsequent few years that I rapidly started realizing that I was not living my true life. I was not my true self. I had lost it. I didn't know who she was anymore. I didn't know where to
Yeah.
find her. And you're the person that I credit anytime I talk about meditation, because I'm like, I'm such a type A person. How do I hadn't even tried it before I met you. And you're the one who guided me through adjusting and learning how to sit and be with myself and be quiet and listen. And those exercises that we did together that really got me in touch with my inner child and helped me realize like where I was hurt and where the experiences lived that led me to where I was, and eventually helped me I don't even know what the words are, but really strengthen myself,
Yeah.
reconnect with myself so that I could move forward into a life that was mine.
Yeah. That was more aligned with who you are instead of who you've been, right? And that can look really scary. Like, I just the whole time we were working together, I was just like, damn, this girl has courage, right? Like a lot of people will not go into this work because it feels really scary. Why? Because it's unfamiliar. And anytime that something is unknown, unfamiliar, we're literally wired to feel fear and anxiety. That's how we're wired in our nervous systems and our brainstem. And so it was, yeah, I get that it was such a huge leap of faith that you took. And I was like, every time I was like, oh, this girl, let me tell you, she is. And I just knew, like, I could see your path just unfolding ahead of you because you were willing to take those steps. And so many people won't. And no judgment about that at all, the ones that don't, because I know how scary that can feel and off-putting um, but also, you did that. And I think, it's so funny when we came together, I think one of the things that bonded us was our similarities in both having our mothers have passed away at that time, and also both being like, I was so type A, high achiever, people pleaser, like, right, same.
Yeah.
And so I knew what that was like. I knew where you were at because I'd been there. And I think that when you have been that before and you know what is then possible because what you've experienced, that's why we came together. Like I have no doubt about that. And a girlfriend of mine just said to me recently, she goes, yeah, I tell everyone you're my gateway drug to spirituality. And, I said, really? I'm like, why do you say that? And she goes, because you come from such a grounded, science-based, like, human, very, very human experience. I didn't start off being spiritual as a kid or anything like that. It came to me in my early 30s. And my mom passing was really was my catalyst, right, down this path. And so she goes, but it almost gave her, and you can feel into whether this is true for you or not, but she goes, it just felt safe, Glenda, to start dipping my toe in, to start opening the door to the universe, to source, to God, to, my true self, my higher levels, like all of that, because she knew where I had come from, which was not that originally. So yeah, it just makes me giggle every time I hear that, the gateway drug to spirituality.
Well, and it's so true. Like, and what she had said is that you come from, I mean, you're a physio, you come from a
Yeah.
very science-based background and
Yes.
career pathway. And that type A, you're right. It was like, oh, I see myself here. This is safe. This is
Yeah.
comfortable. Like it made me understand and believe and trust and have that level of faith
Yeah.
that I think I knew was always in me. I mean, we joke that my mom was was very much the like Italian witchy, right? Like there definitely
Right?
is a strong sense of intuition in my lineage and that I do have it, but I buried it
Yeah.
for so
Well,
long.
yeah, and we didn't even knowingly do that. It was just, again, the human journey is about taking on conditioning. I mean, it is about forgetting who we really are and then coming back to it if that's what our soul is meant to in this lifetime. There are many people whose soul's journey is not about waking up to it. They're going to stay in that illusion of who they really are, stay in their conditioning because that's just what their soul is meant to have this time round, right? Whereas you're not one of them. I'm not one of them that is meant to stay in that, but to really come more into no, 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 no. You're here to be your true self, and then to help others along the way in our own ways, right? Of how we do that. And so, yeah, it's I say to people too, like I'm very tapped in, I'm very intuitive, and I'm also very boots on the ground.
Mhm.
Like I call myself a grounded woo
Yep.
because I'm like, yeah, and I'm here to have this human experience, and I love this human experience. And also, let's bring the higher dimensional frequency energies down into this planet. Like I feel like it's more bringing them down and in versus us like ascending up and out, if that makes sense, right?
Like,
Yeah, and so that's how we shift humanity is by bringing those, like I said, higher dimensional energies down and through, which are really coming through right now. They're like, if anyone is feeling a little bit out of sorts, even, or just like, what is going on? I feel like my world's being turned upside down. There's a big shift happening right now, and there's, like I said, a lot of those energies coming through. So,
well, thank goodness.
amen.
Please come, bring it on. Bring it
Yes.
on. I think it's interesting as we were chatting, being like, okay, where do we want to take this conversation? And one of the things is claiming your power. And, as a single mom who went through the divorce itself, relatively peaceful, but some tumultuous times since, but now is one of those times where the reminder of like, you claim your power, girl, just resonates with me so much, right? Like it has been, like you said, willing to do the work can suck. It can really, I mean, the beauty that's on the other side of the suck is amazing. Because I do claim my own power. And it's not right. Like I am not triggered. I am not thrown off like I was 4 or 5 years ago by some of the tactics and the drama and the BS. And yet that reminder of like, don't forget who you are. You have done the work.
Mhm.
Be solid in who you are and not let someone else's circus or monkeys,
Yeah.
grill you, right? But I think
Yeah.
it's a powerful message because these things happen almost cyclically, right?
Yeah.
Um, when big life events are coming up, or someone's life shifts, or someone else is feeling something and needs to respond, react, act out, whatever the thing is, right? But remembering that we have that power within us,
Mhm.
I think is just so important. And so I'm excited to sort of have you share a little bit about that with the listeners and kind of maybe give us all that reminder that we need every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it does come around. And the reason it's kind of like, if we take your situation as an example, it's like here is the invitation to claim your power even more.
Yeah.
So it's not that you aren't in your power, it's not that you haven't claimed your power. It's like, okay, now let's expand that even more. And so because a lot of people will look at when things come cyclically, they're like, well, I did the work on that, like I've already visited this, like why is it coming back? And then you go into like I must have done it wrong, or blah, blah, or whatever. And it's like, no, this is just the next iteration of it, and you are a different person now than you were the last time,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
And so now you get to look at this again, almost like from a more refined lens, a more truthful lens for yourself than it was the last time. So it's like, we're moving on a spiral. So it's like the next rung of the spiral
Mhm.
that you've moved to. And now it's like, okay, how are you going to deal from it, with it from this place? How are you going to navigate it now that you are a truer version of yourself than you were the last time, right? So I just wanted to clarify that for people, is that it's not that you're doing something wrong. Yes, things we can be in our patternings. That's a little different.
Mhm.
If our patterning is showing up, in other words, if the people pleasing is coming up, or the perfectionism, or whatever, being the good girl, whatever it is, that is an opportunity, again, for you to choose something different for yourself instead of going down that really familiar pathway. So we're being given these opportunities and invitations all the time, and it's all perfect. So it's like you're not doing it wrong. It's just simply, oh, okay, game on. Let's see how it goes this time.
Recognition? Yes, that recognition of being like, like you receive whatever the input is, right? And you're like, oh, I see what you're doing. I
Yeah,
see what
I
this
see.
is. And I'm not, I don't respond that way anymore. Right.
Exactly. Like
Like,
you said, you're not as triggered because you're not in your conditioning in that way. And you also, and it's funny, I call it disentangling from our condition and being more of who we really are, we start to see things differently. We start to see the truth of what's going on. We start to be able to see underneath
mhm.
what is actually happening, and
Which
really go,
really
right?
upsets,
Oh,
really bothers folks who may
yes.
operate with certain conditions or into.
Yeah, no, they don't like it if they can
Oh,
see,
no.
right? If you can see their BS, they're not happy about that.
No, no,
No,
no, which I'll be honest, brings me just a tiny bit of joy.
I know. But I think too, like, so many of us on this planet want to be understood
Right.
and want people to get us. But as you do this work, and as you, I just call it the journey of remembering your true self and becoming it, embodying it. um, you've got to let go of that. Like, don't try to be understood. Don't try to explain yourself to people. It's just understanding that you are going to see things differently than others do. And this is not a better than, like, this is not a hierarchy thing. This is just simply what happens when we expand our awareness and our consciousness. We do start to see, like, really what's going on in the deeper truths. And so people won't necessarily understand your perspective because they're in their perspective, right? And so, yeah, so that's very much what what happens. And then I think, in terms of claiming your power, one of the reasons that I mean, I've been talking about this a lot anyway, and then in my programs and stuff like that. But this time on this planet, can we agree that it's a little tumultuous? Can we agree that there's some chaos? Can we agree that there's a lot of polarity? There's a lot of divisiveness, right?
I
There's
think
just
we
a lot
definitely agree on
going
that.
on,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I think we all can agree on that. And so when this happens, to me, I look at that as, okay, that is an invitation to really be in alignment with what is true for you. Like, what are your beliefs
Mhm.
truly, not based on what everyone else is saying? And what feels really resonant? And are you willing to act from that place, even though it might go against the status quo? Even though people are going to disagree with you, even though some people might even like throw shade your way, right? So it's really staying true to yourself. What's important to you? What do you desire? And what do you require? Like, those are kind of like three things that I like to sort of really presence for myself, and then do that. Like, really be almost that integrity with yourself of like, yeah, this is not working for me. This is not resonating. This is the direction I'm going, without apology, like, and without people having to get it, and or agree, but simply because you feel that this is what is true for you. Now, when I say that, this is not about being up in your ego. This is not about being in your conditioning. This is not about operating from fear and trying to stay safe, that is actually not your truth. And a lot of people will mistake it for the truth. The truth of who you are is without all of that. So it's more about who you are when no one else is watching. Like you know what I mean? When it actually, what if it didn't matter what anyone else thought, what anyone else said? What would you choose then? You know, and this is a process that a lot of women are required to go through to be able to even, like, you said you lost yourself. I lost myself too. If you asked me what I wanted, I didn't even know. I'm
No.
like, I don't know what I want, because we'd been people pleasing for so many years and putting other people's needs ahead of our own, their wants, their desires, that we lost track of like what actually matters to us, right? So if you're starting from that place, yeah, it's going to take a bit, but the first step is awareness that you're doing that.
Mhm.
And then secondly is choosing, I don't want that anymore. I want what's more congruent with me. I don't know what that is right now. I don't know who I am right now, but that's the path I'm going on. And then it will start to unfold. And certainly that's what I help women with. That's kind of my passion, is because it's been my journey. And then I'm like, I want more women to be able to experience this for themselves. And it's what the world needs right now is people that are claiming their own power, not giving their power away to politicians, right? To people that are in the place of making big decisions. It's like, be in your own power, and let's not give it away to groups of people, to individuals that you think have the power. That's the thing, is we very much operate in a society that we believe is hierarchical,
Mhm.
right? So that's how we look at it. So therefore, the people at the top have all the power. And I'm like, they only have the power if you're giving it to them, right? And so it's like coming back to, it's like power to the people, right? like we go back to that saying. It really is. And so it's our responsibility, each as individuals, to really come into what is our truth, and let me claim that for myself first and foremost before I'm ever going to be able to help anyone else with that.
And I think that's so important too. And I want to go back to sort of the three things that you said, as you're thinking about it, does this resonate with me? Is this
Yeah.
aligned with who I am, right? It was, is this what I desire? Is this what I require? And what was the third one?
What really matters to me.
Right. And on such a, like, let's even bring it down, like you said, individually on that personal level, in our homes, in our
Yes.
families, in our relationships, in our friendships,
Yeah.
or even in those interactions with, you know, our adversaries, right? And people who may not see us, like us, whatever, for
Yeah.
whatever, right? It really comes down to knowing who we are, what we desire, what we need, and that it matters, right? That it's not selfish, that it's not superficial.
No, because you're here to be yourself. Like, were you really put on the planet to be someone else, to be someone that you're not? Like, were you really plopped here on planet Earth to, like, I don't know, be a version of yourself you think you need to be? Like, I just don't think that's why we're here, you
It's so
know?
I gave a talk yesterday at our Chamber of Commerce, and it was all about mindful marketing, but it
Mhm.
was showing up as you are,
Yeah.
right? Like but it has taken me, and I joked, I'm like, it's taken me
Hmm.
to get to this place in my business where, yes, the strategy geek that started out helping people with their marketing has
Yeah.
really come so far to just unapologetically say, show up as you are
Yeah.
and what works for you. Like put everybody else's shoulds in a box
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
show up as you are. But in order to do that, we need to do exactly what you're saying first.
Yeah. And I think, too, I think it's really important to point out why people aren't the true versions of themselves. And bottom line is, because they believe on some level, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, that it's not safe to do that. And the reason they don't feel it's safe to do that goes back to your childhood when you were just being your carefree, playful, whatever, exuberant self, or however you were as a child, and you had an experience where you misinterpreted what happened to mean that you being that way wasn't safe because you got in trouble or something bad happened or whatever. So you took on this idea that, oh, when I'm that way, when I'm my true self, I either get hurt or someone else gets hurt, or like, so we gotta shut that down,
Yep.
and I've got to be this way instead. This is how I stay safe and loved. Okay. So it really, like, there's a good reason. That's why it feels so scary to a lot of people to start becoming their true selves, to start or to stop the people pleasing, to stop the perfectionism. And that's where, the work that I do with people is to really get to the root of that so that we can clear that, so that then your choices to not engage in your conditioning actually become easier.
Mm.
There's not as much resistance in the way because we've cleared it at a root level in terms of, what has had you do it for all these years. So I just wanted to point that out because it's not as easy as just be your true self. Let's, flick that switch and there you are. It is, it's a process, it's a journey, and the whole reason you're not being your true self is for good reason. And I want, and that's where a lot of people will judge themselves, right? So if they are people pleasers or they are whatever perfectionists, they'll judge themselves for it as bad. And I just want to say, let's shift that judgment to compassion instead, because it's the little girl in you that is scared, that is fueling that behavior. So let's have some love and compassion for her, and let's drop the judgment. And because judgment is just about protection anyway, again, stemming from fear. And let's really shift from our conditioning, which is fear based and trying to protect ourselves, to more of like opening our hearts, first and foremost to ourselves. And like I said, really accepting and loving ourselves and having compassion as we embark on this journey. And it's like you can go, I call it an awakening journey. You can go on this awakening journey regardless, but it can be very bumpy, and it can be very clunky, and it can feel really uncomfortable. And, or you can, I should say, or you can, embark on this journey from a place where love is really guiding you forwards. And that's my main emphasis with people. It's like, you don't have to know, like this is a journey back to love. It's back to your heart. Because we, again, when we are scared and when we've had experiences where we've been hurt, we close off our hearts because we don't want to feel that again. But the problem is it's stopping us from receiving more love, more support, more abundance. Even though we feel it's the right thing to do to protect ourselves, we're blocking ourselves from receiving those things as well. So it's like, no, let's bring the walls down. And because once you see that you actually don't need to protect yourself anymore, then you can bring those walls down, and then you can be more of your authentic self, right? And have heartfelt conversations, or conversations from your heart. You can be more vulnerable because it then feels safe to do that. Yeah.
Here's a question I have, and that I often, sometimes when I'll bring up sort of this topic of like doing work or kind of uncovering and kind of working or healing some
Yeah.
trauma, there seems to be this concern of like, but I am who I am and I like who I am.
Yes.
I don't want to erase what shaped me.
Yeah.
Is there a place for both, right? To heal some of that trauma and to, it doesn't forget, it doesn't erase
No.
lived experiences,
Yeah.
but maybe it's just, it makes what is even better, right?
Yeah.
It's not that like who you have become is bad because of all of your experiences and trauma and pain,
Yeah.
but is there an and situation, right? Like, is that, like, can you explain how if you do the work, you're not discarding?
Yeah. No.
If your scars make
I, yeah, it's interesting. People often say, do you have regrets in your life? Do you need to forgive yourself in some way? And I just say no, because it's all a part of your journey. Every single moment, every single experience, every decision you've made has brought you to who you are today, and is going to, as you move forward, you will take the parts of you with you that are in alignment, that are in truth. The parts that you're shedding, or that let go of you as you embody more of your true self, they were never you in the first place. And so they're false. They're like illusions. And honestly, it's not in the highest for you to take them forwards with you. And as you let go of them, it's like if you were an amazing person to start with, you become like amazing on steroids. Like it 10x's it, because more of your essence starts to shine through. Your radiance increases, your magnetism increases because this other stuff is not in the way. And so I'll give you an example. Someone who people pleases or tries to save people, right? So if you've kind of built your identity around, I'm the person that people come to because I can save them, right? As an example,
Mhm.
you think it's noble, you think it's like it's an amazing thing. But if I can point out that when you try to take responsibility for someone else's happiness and well-being, first of all, it's a lose situation. You can't do that. You only have yourself that you have any control over. Secondly, it will deplete you. It's like you're inserting your energy into their energy space. And now you've sort of given away some of your energy. It's like you're scattering your energy rather than having it all inside of you. And then the person that you're trying to help, right? Because it's all from a good place, it's all from like a desire to want to help. The person you're trying to help, energetically, whether they're aware of it or not, is going to take that to mean, oh, geez, like, I guess I can't do this on my own. I guess I need this person to come in and like save me in some way. So it's very disempowering for them. So by you doing that, you're draining yourself and you're disempowering the person. So it's a lose-lose. There's like no winning happening here, right? Do you want to continue that? Do you want to continue that, doing that moving forwards? And instead, what I say is it's not about carrying the responsibility for this person. You can simply just care. You don't need to worry. You don't need to step in. You can just be there as support, but you don't need to actually jump in because they actually don't need fixing and they actually don't need you to do anything for them. So still from a place of caring, right? Having a big heart, but not from jumping in and having to do anything. And in the long run, again, that's win-win. It's win for you because you're fully in yourself and you're just, you're giving from a place, you're caring. And it's win for them because they're empowered because you're not stepping in to micromanage their world for them. So, right. So it's, that is a form of conditioning that a lot of us have had, and I certainly had it. And I don't miss that. I don't miss it. I would not go back. If say, Glenda, we can wave a magic wand and we can go back to you being fully in your conditioning. No, hell no. Like, no, it's just a hard stop for me now. Right. So I think it's one of those things that, yes, there's the fear of that, and I get that, but also understand that your ego does not want you to change. It does not want you to change one iota. It doesn't want you to become more of your true self. It doesn't want you to disentangle from your conditioning because it views your conditioning as what is keeping you safe. It's a false sense of safety. It's not true. But again, our ego minds are like, No, change is dangerous. Don't go there. So just know that a lot of times what is talking to you is your ego mind and not your true self.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Change is not always bad.
No.
It's
In
awful.
fact, it's
Not.
in fact it's a constant. And it's so fascinating that we as humans are wired to view change as dangerous or unsafe when change is a constant. Like it's like why are we wired this way? That doesn't really make sense to me, but it is what it is. So let's just really see that for what it is. That you just even thinking about making a change is going to stimulate the amygdala in your brainstem, which then will cause a release of neurohormones and chemicals into your bloodstream that will then have you feel fear and anxiety.
It's a lovely cycle, isn't it?
Right? So what I say to people, it's like, just let's reframe the fear. The fear is not about stop and don't move forwards. The fear is feedback that you're ready for the next step. You're ready for that next level. You're ready for that change.
That's
And
fear and
it's
excitement, right?
part of
They're
the process.
the same coin.
Yeah, exactly.
Just excitement.
It's right. It's just part of the expansion process, of the growth process. And when you can really start to see it that way and know that, oh, this is normal, this is part of it, I must be on the right track, right? Instead of, ooh, I shouldn't go there, I shouldn't do this, or,
Go back to where
yeah,
I was. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
totally.
So, my dear, how can people work with you? What do you have that's like new and exciting, or what's running again, like long term? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I just started my latest new program called True Essence Unveiled, and this is a 4-month deep dive. It's really, again, where we do the deconditioning, where we really claim our power, and where we really remember and start embodying our true self. So that one, I will be doing it again. So if that is something you're interested in hearing about for the next round, then definitely you can reach out to me. And then I work one-on-one. I love working one-on-one with my clients, and I have different ways of doing that, different lengths of time, and how we do that. Where there's obviously just more very personalized support. Like the coaching is very personalized to you and your makeup, your very makeup. And so those are the two ways. I do have something in the works that's coming. It's coming. It's exciting. I'm not going to announce it yet. So you can stay tuned for that. But if you want to find me, I am on Instagram. And it's Glenda Lane Freedom Guide. So you can find me there. I'm also on Facebook. And my email is glenda@glendalane.ca. If you just want to reach out, you can do it that way. I think those are probably the main places that of ways of getting hold of me. And even if you just want to say hi and like, what are you up to? And come play on Instagram. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. So
I would highly recommend it. I have worked with you in both containers, one on one,
yes.
life changing in such a good way,
Mm,
and also in a group setting. So I have gotten to experience both. I loved both.
thank you. Yeah.
I will say that that one on one was hands down the most impactful coaching I've ever had in my life in terms
Aw.
of the life stuff. Right. I mean, that was sort of the big. I've had some fabulous coaches. I've been very fortunate, and some of them we've had together.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was transformational in terms of getting me. I would say probably my biggest life leap,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like
Yeah. Beautiful.
right time was definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it all is, right? I believe in perfect divine timing and, the right people come along. It's not coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence in my world. It's like I said, it's perfect divine timing. And I love working with people on anything, but relationships are kind of my jam, and specifically family relationships are, when a client comes to me and shares with me the shifts that are happening with their kids,
Mm.
right, with their partner. It just, I don't know, it just really makes my heart smile because I'm like, yes, this work is for the women first. First and foremost, it's for them. But the ripple effect that happens, like it can't not, right? And so that to me, when we're impacting family units, right, and even some of my clients within their workplaces, right, when they have a leadership role and just starting to see some like that to me is like this is how we do it, people. Take care of ourselves,
And
and
then,
then that ripples out.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is wild. And to see how, you'll learn sort of like what those patterns are that you don't love, but you can't identify them at first. And then to see how in work with clients and in work with family members and just how like the place I am now from when we first met, I think it was actually March time frame, October or March. We were in LA both times, but I think it was 26. It was October of 15 maybe and March of 16.
yeah, yeah. I think the first time was in October.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
And
was the first time.
yeah, but the difference in the time
Hmm.
is just, I mean, it was probably 9 years
I
is
know,
it's
crazy.
wild. It is wild.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just been such a privilege for me to to see you and my other clients and just to be a witness of the transformation that happens when you choose yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't call it selfish, I call it self-full
Mm,
because at the end of the day, you are going to be able to give more and better from overflow. It's like filling you up first, not from a place of depletion and things and patterns that are depleting you. Because that leads to resentment, as you know. And for me it even led it got so far down the road that it led to apathy, where I just didn't care anymore. I was like, screw this, beam me up, Scotty. Like,
yeah.
it's like this sucks. And I don't ever want to be because I had reached such burnout. That's why. And I don't want that for anybody. Like I've been there, done that, and I don't wish that on anyone. It's just not a nice experience. So you can choose that for yourself. You don't have to be in rock bottom. You don't have to be in burnout. You don't have to have something major in your life to choose that for yourself. Although those are the things that tend to not only yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I am so glad. I'm hoping that everybody does go find you, Glenda Lane Freedom Guide on Instagram. I love your content. I love
Oh, thank
like
you.
your stories. Everything is just so real. And obviously it's so real and it's so you. So it's so relatable.
Thank
Um,
you.
but yes, check Glenda out. If you have questions, I mean, I will say just from experience, right? Just reach out and say hi
Yeah.
and just connect because a, it is a connection that you will never, ever regret making. For
Thank you. Thank you, love.
Thank you so much for joining me again on Super Real Human. I think your insight and your wisdom is always so needed, and I think now probably more than ever.
Yeah, thank you, love. It's been so awesome to be back here with you, and it's always a pleasure. Always, always.
We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you all for listening to this episode of Super Real Human. We will see you back here next time.